And welcome. You are all in accessing and utilizing data to prioritize our sector, which is defined as the ECE EDU sector. I think I'm going to get started now. I know we have some people still coming in, but we want to make sure we are on time. So thank you for being with us to discuss data. I'm Kathleen White from the San Francisco Bay region. I lead the ECE EDU regional joint venture, which this year focuses on apprenticeship. And I'm based out of City College of San Francisco, retired faculty. And I'd like to introduce John Carrese, who is the director of the San Francisco Bay Center of Excellence for Labor Market Research. And he is our data guru and will be giving us information on how to utilize data so that we can lift and prioritize our sector, which needs some lifting and prioritizing. So goals of the workshop are how to use data to support this sector. So when we say ECE EDU, we are talking about teacher pipelines. We are talking about early childhood. We are talking about the after-school workforce, really school-based employment that focuses on serving children and youth in a range of settings and a range of functions. So our sector's broad, and by the way, poorly defined in terms of job title, which John can get into. We're going to bust a few myths, and we're going to talk about using data to support our sector and what we can do. So again, welcome. You're at the data workshop. Welcome to our new recipients. I mean, you're not recipients, you're attendees. So brief sector overview. We have a female majority workforce, over 90% female in ECE and 74% female in K-12. We have about 200,000 ECE workers, mostly working in child development programs, 300,000 K-12 teachers in California. And we don't know how many after-school workers. We know there's 30,000 in publicly funded programs. And I'm estimating it could be 300,000 more in private programs. Based on 6 million students in K-12 education in California, we know that a number of them, especially the younger ones, need after-school care and summer care. So it's an invisible workforce that's large, and that is part of our data challenge. We're lacking data on the workforce due to missing occupational SOC codes, which John can talk to you about, that don't really define the jobs that our students are taking and the jobs that are out there when you're working with children or youth. Most certainly family childcare is not reflected because many of those family childcare providers are they're small businesses. They're reflected in other areas, independent contractors, small businesses. They're not under our SOC codes. And we know, again, as I said, with after school, there's an invisible workforce that's not getting tabulated. Mostly because the job titles range from recreation assistant to teacher aide to school paraprofessional to child care worker. And none of those quite fit the occupation. So again, defining the sector, looking at who the workforce is ground one. We've got work to do. Just a couple reminders at the start of this pandemic. Many of you know this. You can remember back in March and April, our workforce was not defined as an essential worker workforce. When we looked at the federal description, we were not on there. It took about a year of parents losing jobs, complaining, employers not being able to find workers, and I think for the country to realize that, yes, teachers are essential, childcare workers are essential, and they're actually essential to our economy, but we were not initially described as essential workers. Wastewater treatment workers were essential, but those of us caring for children and advocating for children and teaching children were not. So that's my sarcasm for this afternoon. 40 years old is the average age of an ECE worker. 43 years is the average age of a California K-12 teacher. So when we look at our sector, we're not talking about after school trends younger, but we're not talking about a workforce that just comes in and leaves. We've got, you know, definitely average age in the 40s here for this workforce. 85% of our workforce enrolled in community college coursework to begin their career in ECE, and 54% of our California teacher credential candidates began at a community college in California. At the California community colleges, when we look at who's enrolled in our coursework, we have 83% of our students enrolled in our coursework are female, 67% are non-white, 78% are economically disadvantaged, financial aid eligible, and I see a typo, sorry. I have a spelling error that I caught. So that's my fault. And by the way, since I am leading this apprenticeship program, 6.7% of our registered apprentices in the field in California are female in all fields. And we know apprenticeship is linked to higher wages and wage progression in the field and clearer job titles. So it seems like this pipeline would be helpful for our field, and we need to increase that number. So that gives you a brief overview of the sector. Most of you know the sector because you live it, you work in it, you teach and support students within the sector, but just gave you an overview of some data. So the ECE EDU sector has to be elevated to priority status, not just based on our numbers. We rank number 5 statewide in enrollments in what are called career technical education pathways. And regionally, just here in the San Francisco Bay region, we rank number 4 in enrollments, just when compared to all other CTE pathways. You have a link here, and it is a link to an Academic Senate resolution that I actually drafted in partnership with Kate Williams-Brown from Skyline College, which asked for our state academic senate and the community college system to prioritize their support for this sector, the ECE, EDU, education and human development sector, mainly due to the numbers of students we have, the numbers of jobs open in the system, the destabilization of our sector during COVID, and the amount of money coming into the system from federal and state recent budget enhancements that really will require a workforce that is prepared, ready, and able in the numbers we need to serve the children that this budget is going to focus on, allow us to serve. We are talking billions of dollars coming into our system. And will the workforce be there? We knew that teacher shortages were at all levels and they impact all sectors because tech, healthcare, automotive, manufacturing, nobody can expand a pipeline without teachers. So it's not just that the workforce health of our state depends on having quality teachers in place. And of course, we need childcare, not only because they're educating the next generation, but because the parents in our pipelines need this service in order to go back to school and take jobs. I want to mention that in our region, John and I authored, I think the first in the state teacher occupation Centers of Excellence brochure back in 2019. It's been replicated in 4 other regions. And we also offered a STEM and CTE teacher shortage publication where we tried to link the shortages of teachers to the shortages of available pathways. This is no more critical than when it comes to registered nursing. And we got a lot of, I guess, attention at the shortages of nurses and related healthcare professionals during the pandemic. But many of our programs cannot grow because they do not have the teachers to lead the classrooms that are needed to solve this shortage. So teachers affect all sectors. The links are in here. And if you just put if you'd like this presentation with the live links, we'll be happy to send it to you. Put your information in the chat and I'll be happy to send you a copy. And you have our email also. We're at the, on the resource page. So when we talk about myth busting, what myths were busted during this pandemic? The pandemic destabilized this workforce significantly. I think really only the hospitality industry was as destabilized. I can't think of that many industries that had so much stress and just ongoing crisis around it during this pandemic. Myths about teachers were busted as parents everywhere started to engage in virtual learning with their own children and just grew frustrated. And I think really realized the importance of a trained and qualified teacher. Women were disproportionately impacted. We know the numbers are in the millions of women who could not return to work, lost jobs, took less hours, had childcare supervision gaps, and experienced significant stress. Childcare is in crisis, most certainly in California. It's in crisis in the country. We do have an opportunity for both state and federal funding, both this year and next year, to address this crisis. But will it be enough to address our teacher shortages? We have to have teachers at the ready to serve the children that are going to be funded with any funding increase. So federal American Rescue Plan has money for childcare. Next year's family plan has money for childcare. Our June 2021 California budget has money for TK expansion, childcare expansion, after school expansion. But can we grow these programs and spend this money without staff? How do we tell this story? How do we argue for workforce? And what data do we use? What can data show? Data can show who's not counted. So an undercounting of family childcare in this, in the profession, and undercounting of the school age workforce. It highlights the TK problem in that Governor Newsom wants, in his budget, TK was going to be grade 13 for the state, that transitional kindergarten would be available in all school districts, in all schools. We have a phase-in plan for the next 3 years. We have to look at who's going to be leading those classrooms. Where will we find these people? And if we do find them, what gaps will they leave if they leave where they are now? We have a myth around living wages and who is earning a living wage in our sector, and we're going to be exploring the data. So, John, do you want to explain this little tableau? And then I think we're going to launch into your discussion shortly after, but I think
Sure, Kathleen. This is a slide, and we'll show you how to get to this dashboard later in the presentation. But to Kathleen's point just now about the myth about living wages, I think a lot of people feel like childcare, early care, and education is not a field to go into because it pays low wages. That's the kind of the conventional wisdom about the field. And what this slide is showing you is students in the Bay region who, and what you're seeing on the left-hand side of your screen is the programs at the community colleges: accounting, police academy, administration of justice, and so forth. The fifth one down is child development, early care, and education. And what this bar is telling you, the orange and the blue bars that you have in front of you are telling you of the total number of students that completed that program. It's showing you in that graphic, if they're in the blue section, it's the students that attained a living wage based on the living wage calculation for the Bay region overall. And the orange part is saying, is showing the number that did not for that program area. So you can see, if you look at the fifth one down, as I said, child development, early care and education, you can see that it's ranked fifth because 853 students did attain a living wage. So it's fifth in terms of rank order. It's in the top 5. It does have a large orange bar, as you can see, over 2,700. So, you know, if you just eyeball it, it looks like about 1/3 of the students maybe have or so have attained a living wage and 2/3 have not, roughly. But the other thing you'd want to ask is, of those 2,700 students that are represented in the orange bar, did they make a wage gain? Not just, you know, so there's 2 pieces of wage information, 2 or more, but 2 important ones to look at are, do students attain a living wage at the end of a program? The other thing you might want to look at, or I would suggest is important to look at, is did a student who's starting at a very low wage take a program like early care and education and then get a wage gain at the end when they went into the labor market? Did they gain, like, going from $10 an hour to 12, or $8 an hour to 10? That's an important metric. And when you get students on that wage gain path, they're going to be moving from that orange into the blue as they get more education and more experience in the field. So that's kind of what Kathleen and I want to kind of deconstruct some of these ideas about, you shouldn't go into this field because it's low paying. And there's a more complex, nuanced story to that. And that's what we're trying to show you with data right there.
Thank you. And if you'll notice in our region, we have more students achieving livable wage than IT, which is, if you look way down at the bottom, they had 440 students. So there is it's a myth that our profession, where it ranks in terms of who's achieving a livable wage and the numbers of students that we prepare to receive livable wages, is pretty impressive. So thank you, John. I believe, John, this is you. So John, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Kathleen. So I'm John Carrese. I'm the director of the Bay Region Center of Excellence for Labor Market Research. I'm also hosted by City College of San Francisco, but I'm one of 9 regional centers of excellence across the state. Our centers are funded through the California Community College Chancellor's Office to provide labor market and workforce data and information to the colleges in our region. We have a statewide director, also Laura Coleman, who coordinates all of our work. And so in the Bay region, we're looking at a 12-county area that goes from Santa Rosa, Sonoma County and Santa Rosa Junior College, all the way down to Cabrillo in Santa Cruz, in Monterey, Santa Cruz area. So it's a big region, 28 community colleges. And Chris Lee is the assistant director of the center. She's going to be helping me with part of the presentation towards the end. But we're grant funded. We're here to serve our community colleges with this kind of information that we're showing you today, data and research that helps colleges provide the training programs that are aligned with the labor market that help serve our students best. So I'll stop there, and next slide. Yeah. So this is a little bit about the importance of labor market data and community college student performance data, and why you should use it. Why should I use it is the question. So the Chancellor's Office, State Chancellor's Office, has placed more and more emphasis on using data for decision making in the last few years, especially. This data is used, it's actually a requirement now to get in our region and across the state, to get a labor market report from the Center of Excellence if you want to start a new CTE program, to document that there is a demand for your program in the labor market. For the students that complete, there will be jobs for them that pay a living wage. So it's a kind of an issue of stewardship and being good stewards of public dollars and resources to kind of make sure that we're creating programs that serve students and are good investments. The labor market side is that. The student performance side and student outcome side is also important. And we do have, I'll show you some tools that we have created that help you look at, okay, for a program, we were just looking at one of those tools. How do our students do? What are the outcomes for our students? Do they get employed? What wages do they earn? Do they complete even? And those are the kinds of things we can look at with different data tools built by the Chancellor's Office and in our region to kind of look at student data and performance data. As I said before, it's really both of these kinds of data, these types of data, labor market and student data, they're really intended. The purpose of them is to help students in the long run by giving them the best opportunity to be successful in the labor market. And if we think about it as, when you're looking at the student outcomes data, if you're a college or you're a chair of a department, that data should help inform how you can improve things in your program that maybe are not that strong when you look at the data. So performance improvement is certainly a goal of looking at the student outcomes data to make the program stronger so it can serve students better, so they get the skills and the training they need to be successful in the labor market. That's the intent of all of this. I think that's it. Next slide. So what I want to do now is show you how you can, I'll just, a little background. When we first started the Centers of Excellence 20 or more years ago, we were just producing reports and handing them to people. And we would say, here, read this, and hopefully you'll use it to do the things I was just describing. But now more and more, there's so much data available, and there's so many cool data tools you can use, dashboards you can create, that we are more and more shifting to an approach where we're going to give you resources. If you're a college's CTE dean or a program chair or a faculty member, we're going to give you the tools, and then we're going to let you use those tools to fish for yourself, because we don't have enough staff and resources to provide all the reports that people request from us. More and more we do that still, but we also are providing resources so you can get data for yourself whenever you want it. So I'm going to show you some of these tools now and where to find them. So let's see, Kathleen, I guess I can just share my screen now. Yeah, okay. And so the first thing I want to show you is, and it's the link to get here is in the slides that we were just looking at, right? So you can go back as a reference and go, okay, I wanted to see that page that he went to, and the link is in the slide I was just on. So Chris Lee gets a lot of credit or kudos for this, because what you're looking at right now is something that she created for us. That's a really nice one-stop shop for data and information. Let me expand that. Okay, so this is hosted at the Bay Area Community College Consortium page, our regional consortia page, website, and this is a page within that. So these are, you can see here on the right, these quick links. I'll get that out of the way. So this is a monthly or every other month newsletter we're producing. on what's happening in our regional labor market. I won't show you that now, but you can let's see, read the most recent link there, and you can click here to join our email list so you can get the newsletter if you're interested in it. So that's just a little plug for that. This is where you could go to the Statewide Centers of Excellence page. Some of the things we have on our dashboard are on the pages I'm going to show you, the data tools and guides and data dashboards are also at the COE statewide page, but we just wanted to pull them all together into one easy to find place, but you could also find them there. I'm going to focus on these two buttons, data tools and guides and data dashboards. There's also some sector profiles for different industry sectors that we track in the region. Let's see, this is what the data tools and guides page looks like. And it's loading right now, okay. So there's a couple of LMI guides that are actually really, if you're a data geek, they're really fun reading. If you're not a data geek, they're also informative, just to give you kind of a overview of labor market data, what it is and how to use it. So you can click on those links and get those guides. What I'm gonna, these four tools are, you know, kind of really got tons of data in them. The supply table is for looking at college program data. Perkins table is for looking at, for colleges that get federal Perkins money, looking at high demand, high wage jobs in the region. And the skills table is for obviously looking at skills that are in demand, specialized in software skills based on job postings data from employers. But what I want to focus on is this table right here, the demand table. If you want to, for these first two, for the demand table and supply table, there's a little video you can click on later at your convenience to get an overview of how to use the tables. I'm going to give you a quick, like, you know, 6-7 minute overview of how to use this table and a couple of other resources. So if you want to get to that table, you'd click here, right where it says demand table. It'll open up. It's a big Excel file, you know, download to your desktop, you open it up, and then you will see what I'm going to show you right now. Okay. There it is. This is like the cooking shows. If you like cooking and used to watch cooking show, they show you they're mixing up stuff and then they don't have enough time to let it bake. So they take it out of the oven. It's already baked. So here it is. It's already baked. Instead of me downloading it and going through what you would have to do. So this data now that you're looking at on the left-hand side is about 800 occupations in, you know, the labor department's list of occupational data that they capture information on. It's right now set for the state of California. So if you just look at this first line, chief executives, there are about 5,000 annual job openings for chief executives annually. The average wage for them is $197,000. And there's about, in 2018, there were about currently employed 79,000 chief executives in the state, right? And they require a bachelor's degree. So that's what you have on the left, state data. If I want to look at Bay Area data, I would just click on this button and all of that data on the left will change. Now I'm just looking at those same 800 occupations and the data for them, but just for the 12 county Bay Area. Now today, and Kathleen, tell me when I'm about, you know, a minute away, like if you just, I want to do about 6 or 7 minutes on this one.
Okay.
Okay, great. So now we're looking at just Bay Area data. I can also, I'm not going to do it right now, but see over here in the counties, there are subregions and there are counties, or the first one is the East Bay, it's Alameda and Contra Costa County. So 6 of them are individual counties and the other 3 selections are counties that are really a pair of 2 counties. Anyway, I can drill down to a smaller county or 2 county region over here on this by just clicking on any of those. I won't do that right now. I'll stay with the Bay Area. Right down here below, I'm going to hide that one last column on wages for a second so you can see this better. You can see down the next row down, I have sectors that I can select. These are the Chancellor's Office sector designations. There's 10 sectors that that we track on in the state. You have also education levels. I can pick by education level of the occupation. And then this box is just each of the occupations. Then there's over 800 of them in here. This list goes down. Oops, sorry. This list goes alphabetically. It's a very long list, but I won't do that right now because what I want to show you is the education and human development sector, and that's what we're talking about today. So to look at all the occupations that are grouped under that sector, and it's based on the top codes in the sector and which occupations crosswalk to those top codes. You're gonna see this chart on the left, which starts with chief executives, now just change because it's just gonna be education and human development occupations just by clicking this. So there we go. All right, so now we have, let's see, we start on row 4. If I scroll down, it goes to row, what, 70 something, or no, 62. So there's about 58 occupations on this list, right? Now, the education level is important. So I want to eliminate advanced degree because if you can see, I'm going to look at the first one that comes up as an advanced degree, business teachers post-secondary. So it's post-secondary. So you need a doctoral professional degree for that. So I don't want to look at that because right now we're looking at occupations that community colleges and to a 4-year pathway a student could get. So to do that, when you watch the video, you'll see how to do it. I'm going to do this quickly. I can select just the occupations that I want by education level, right? So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to click bachelor's degree. Now we have all the bachelor's degree occupations. It's about 17 of them. And then I can add the community college occupations, which require an associate degree or some college, like a certificate. And now our list goes to about 22 occupations. And now I'm going to add occupations that you can get with just a high school degree. And that list goes to about 25, right? So now we have a set of 25 occupations on the left. It's all Bay Region data. And it's for occupations that we can prepare our students for. And I just want to show you then, so this is a little cluster of occupations that we're really dealing with. I'm going to move over so you can see average annual earnings. If I want to look at just I'm going to pick, let's see, I'll pick, where's childcare workers? Childcare workers down here, okay, on this row. So childcare workers is a high school diploma equivalent for the education level, for entry level. In 2018 in the Bay Region, there were 21,000 childcare workers, according to the Employment Development Department. The number of job openings, total job openings they're projecting now over the 10-year period from 2018 to 2028, they project that there'll be an additional 31,750 job openings. And that's going to be based on new jobs and also what we call replacement openings. A worker leaves and the employer needs to backfill that position. So that 31,750 jobs over 10 years translates into about 3,175 annual job openings for childcare workers in the Bay Region, paying on average annually $34,000, okay? So that's how you read the chart left to right for any of these occupations. So I think I'll stop there, Kathleen, on this one. Was about 6-7 minutes or so, I hope?
Yep.
All right, good. All right, time me on this next one, about the same amount of time.
Okay.
All right. Oh, one more thing I want to show you before I leave this. So you can see, if you take this group of 25 occupations, there's currently about 232,000 as of 2018 people employed in those 25 occupations as a group, right? So over 230,000 people working in this group of 25 occupations. That will grow to, I think that's, oh, okay. So the total openings, I'm sorry, you know what? When I went, let me go back to childcare. It was 21,000 jobs in 2018. I misspoke. Another 10,000 will be added, which is almost over the 10-year period, which is a pretty large increase, right? That 10,000 is about a 50% increase over 10 years. So that's on average about 5% growth a year annually. So it'll grow to 31,000. I don't think I said that correctly. Anyway, so the total for all 25 occupations currently is in 2018 was 230. It will grow to 268,000. Annualized, if you divide that 268 by 10, you're going to get annual openings for that cluster of 25 occupations, about almost 27,000 annual job openings for these education occupations annually, paying on average $54,000, $55,000 a year. So that's the data for the cohort of occupations I wanted to show you in the demand table. You can do this if you're not in the Bay region. Again, you can go back, you can clear this, and you can pick another region: Central Valley, Greater Sacramento, LA Orange, San Diego, and look at the data for this sector for those regions. Okay. So the next thing I want to show you, let's see, back to data tools and guides. We looked at the demand table. Oh, okay, I want to show you, I think the metrics, let's show the metrics dashboard next, Chris. So I'm going to stop sharing.
And John, the projections for growth was obviously before COVID. So that doesn't take into account the turnover and the job disruption caused by the pandemic. I mean,
yeah, that's true. I mean, and that's hard. That's really hard to kind of know exactly the impact of COVID on it. You know, when you look at that long of a time frame, 2018 to 2028, that 10 years, there'll be ups and downs in the economy and the labor market, and that kind of time period smooths it out. Mm-hmm. It's hard. Yeah, it's gonna hopefully bounce back to where maybe it was in terms of the number of jobs in the sector that have openings. We already know there's a lot of openings right now, but yeah, that's the trick with labor market data, is you're projecting into the future without knowing exactly what's going to happen to the economy, with a big shock to the economy, for example. Yeah. So before Chris shares her screen, because she's going to show you the dashboard while I talk about it, when you click on if we went back to the PowerPoint, I don't want to keep flipping back and forth, but the next slide in the PowerPoint was how the link to get to this SWP Metrics Dashboard. And I want to show you this page. When you click on that link, it'll take you to this page. The first workbook, it's a big Excel file that allows you to look at data. The first workbook, we call it Workbook A, allows you to compare a single program like early child education, early child care and education, across all of the colleges. Locations means the colleges that have that program in the region. So one program of study, and looking at it across the region for all the colleges that have that program. Workbook B is different. That's looking at a single location, meaning one college, and looking at all of the CTE programs, the multiple programs a college has, and looking at their portfolio of programs. So Workbook A, one program across lots of colleges. Workbook B, one college, looking at all of their programs. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing and let Chris share her screen, and then I'll talk a little bit about the program of study that's the largest one in this sector, which is ECE, child development, I believe. So Chris, this is what you see when you open up Workbook A, which allows you to look at one program across multiple colleges. Chris, the first thing you do is you select the region you want, right? And we're picking Bay Area. And I'm gonna make the size a little bit bigger so I can see it. Hang on.
Oh, sorry. Let me see if
That's okay.
I don't know how to make this bigger, sorry.
Oh, all right, that's okay. Although it's hard to see, let's see.
Oh, here, maybe. Does this help? Does this help make it more legible or no?
Yeah, slightly. It's unfortunate that the print itself is very gray. It's just a gray.
That's okay. So,
yeah.
But the main thing here is step one, you're going to pick the Bay Area if that's what you
right.
want, but you can pick any region if you're in a different part of the state. And we want to look across all colleges. So I think we're done for that step, right, Chris?
Yeah, yes. And I just want to say for folks later when you're on this page, you to pick all of the colleges at the same time, you need to select the college at the top, Berkeley College, hold the shift key down and then hold the last, and then click on the last college, and then that will select the whole list for you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chris. So now you're kind of set up and you can pick a program. So that's step two. So first you go to the sector cluster and you pick education and human development. Then you have all the programs in that sector in front of you. Why don't we pick child development, early care and education? I think that's the third one down or second one down. Because that's the biggest program in the sector, right, Kathleen, at most of our colleges?
Yeah, it is. It's the biggest.
Yeah. Top code 1305. And then we're going to look at some data. This is the slide that Kathleen showed before. So let's see. It's different numbers, Kathleen. Were you looking at the state? Was that a state slide you had?
No, this selection has way more years in it.
Okay.
Mine was the last 3 years to look at. Yeah.
So that's an important thing. You can pick the years that you want. We won't do that right now. We're just gonna look at all years just to show you. So here, what you're looking at is all of the colleges that have this program, child development, early care and education. And you're looking at one metric. You see below the academic years, you can pick a metric. Right now it's set on who attained the living wage. And you can look at college by college. The blue again is that they've attained the living wage, and the orange is that they have not, right? And if you mouse over one, let's look at Santa Rosa Junior College. Can you do that, Chris? We can see, let's see, the number of 201, yeah, so 87 met it, and 201 did not meet it, I think, right?
Yes.
So that's the metric for that. Let's pick increase in wages, average wage gain. What's that one? Is it in there?
I think it might be over here.
Yeah, median.
Yes.
So for students, and this is the other part of what I was talking about before, when I was talking about the slide with like the myth about, well, this is not a good field to go into because the wages are low. So if you look at what we just looked at, which is how many students have attained a living wage, this is showing you in this dashboard for all of the programs in the region, right? All the colleges in the region that have this program from child development, early care and education. What was the wage gain for the exiting students? What was the increase in their wages? So at Gavilan College, for students that went to this, got a certificate or degree from this program, they had a wage gain of a median wage gain, average wage gain of 55%. These are really big numbers. Median change in earnings from before they started or as they entered, what their wages were, and then when they left and they went to the labor market, what was the median change in earnings. And in this case, it's really phenomenal. Gavilan's at 55%, goes all the way down in the 40s, the 30s, even at the end of, if you scroll down a little bit, Chris, because I can't do that, just scroll down a little, even at the bottom, Ohlone, 24%. I mean, this is really remarkable that colleges are, you know, the vast majority of the colleges that have these programs are at 24, 25% or higher, up to 55% in terms of an increase in earning. So that makes the point that we were trying to make before, which is, it's not just did they attain a living wage after one certificate, but what was their increase or gain in earnings from where they started? And does that set them on a path to get to that living wage? It's very hard in the Bay region, as you know, because of the cost of living. Our living wage attainment or living wage standards pretty high. So getting students that are low wage earners before they start a program to get these kinds of increases gets them on the path to attaining a living wage. So that's really what we wanted to show you here.
Yeah, thank you, John. And it's the story, it's the whole story. As John said, it's not one chart and it's not one factor that's going to eliminate our field, which I think our field has been eliminated based on myths and fallacies around earnings. I think you have to look at the whole picture. So in addition to things like wage gain and how many people do reach living wage, you have to look at who we're starting with, who is in our classrooms, predominantly female, predominantly disproportionately impacted, predominantly students of color, predominantly eligible for financial aid and other income assistance programs. So you have to also look at who we're serving. And we are serving a very different population than some of the other CTE programs when you look at who's sitting in the chairs in the classroom or who's on their Zoom.
Right. The other thing that stands out for me about this chart is if you look at, we have 28 colleges in the Bay region, 25 of them have this program, Child Development, Early Care, and Education. So a student living anywhere in the Bay Area can find a program if this is what they're interested in. So I think that's an important piece of information too. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you stop, thank you very much, Chris, for your help with this. And I'm gonna start sharing my screen and I'm gonna show you one more dashboard. It's called Launchboard. This is built by, can you see my screen now, Kathleen?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This is built by the California Community Colleges. It's called Launchboard. Again, this is part of the emphasis over the last 5 years, especially of focusing more on data and giving colleges lots of great data to use to understand their student populations in the regions, in the program areas, and how are they doing, right? So this looks at student progress, success, employment, and earnings outcomes for community college students. So this is what we were looking at, it's down, is there? Yeah, we were looking at this dashboard, Student Workforce Program Dashboard, which we've modified a little bit to show us that regional look. But there, you can look at student success metrics. You can look at what this one we're gonna look at, I'll come back to it last. You can look at adult education students and how are they doing. K-14 transition, we call it CTE transition, students that started in a CTE program in high school and transitioned to a program in a community college, how are they doing? And then this is the one that I want to show you right now, the community college pipeline. This has all of the CTE programs in it. I'm going to hit explore. Again, back to the slides that Kathleen was sharing. There was a link to get to this dashboard in your slides. You can go back to when you have time. This should load pretty quickly. Okay, so here's the interface for the community college pipeline where I can find CTE data. You can see at the top, just to orient you. And Kathleen, how am I doing on time?
You have about 3 more minutes.
Okay, all right, I'll go through this quickly. This is very user-friendly and intuitive. I'm looking at state data right now, but if I want to go to the Bay Area, I click macro region and I'm going to the Bay Area. I don't want to look at all programs. I just want to look at programs in the education and human development sector. So I'll click on that. And I'll look at the last year and it'll give me actually a trend line when I go to a certain view. So Bay Area Education and Human Development Sector, last available year of data, 2018-19. I'm gonna hit view, and that's the top line. Those are the number of students enrolled in education and human development programs across all of the top codes. 68% are economically disadvantaged. 77% are retained fall to spring in any college. That's a pretty good retention rate. And then I've got to drill down into some more detailed views to get data on employment and earnings. So I'll do that really quickly. Let's see. Let's look at employment data. And to get to the more detailed view, I've got to select an earlier year and hit view. Anytime you change the year or change any of your settings, you've got to hit view to look at the data. Employed after a year, 63% of students in this sector are employed after a year. If I want to look at more detailed data, I click detailed data, and I should be able to see a trend line right here. It's kind of hovering right around there, that you know, kind of 63% line. It also gives me, that's employed in the second fiscal quarter after exit. I can look at the fourth quarter. I can look at the top 5 industries for employment and so forth. But I want to go quickly to earnings and show you that. Should be quickly, sorry. Okay. So now I want to get some earnings data. 29% of students earned a living wage, 63% were employed. Let's dig into the living wage data. That was about that 1/3 number that we were looking at before. If I want to look at detailed data, which is always good because it gives you a lot more information, not just the summary level. This was that median change in earnings that we were talking about. If I click on that, the median change in earnings this is for the whole sector, not just for that child development, early care and education one. So for the whole sector as an aggregate of all the programs, it's around that 33, 35, 33, recently dropped a little bit. But you know, still at 35%, 33%, that's a huge change in earnings, bump in earnings for a student that's trying to make it on a career path to a living wage. So that's the Launchboard, the community college pipeline. There's tons of data in here. Again, you can select by whatever region you want. You can even select by college, right? And then just quickly, last thing, Kathleen, not just at the sector level, I can pick by top code, 4-digit top codes, or at the bottom, I've got 6-digit top codes starting here, okay? So that link is in your slides, and I will hopefully, I know that was a very fast tour of 3 dashboards that have a ton of information in it, so I'm sure you're feeling a little overwhelmed, but Chris and I are available to answer questions for you once you get into these tools. If you want to use them and you're not sure exactly what you're looking at or how to access them, we can help you with that.
Thank you, John.
Welcome.
So the PowerPoint has all the links. Just drop your email into the chat if you would like copies, and you have some data. I just want to go through the slides to make sure we've covered. This is how you get through the COE page. This is how you get to the demand tables. Do you want to talk about this, finding the centers?
Yeah, I don't even think we have to go there. I showed you how you could access data for other regions when I was in the demand table, and also just now in Launchboard. Okay. If you click on this link later when you have time, that's our main Center of Excellence webpage. I also showed it to you before at the Regional Consortium website. At the very top right corner of the homepage of our website, Center of Excellence Statewide website, you can see a button that says Contact Us, and that will show you the regional director, my counterparts in the other 8 regions. So if you're in another region, you want to locate this person that does what Chris and I do in your region, that's at that link right there.
Thank you. So I think you already said.
Yeah, I pretty much talked through
Okay.
this when we were doing the demand table. This is all the kind of data that you can get in the demand table, and it's got a lot of information in it.
Okay.
You did want to mention this.
Yes.
I think we kind of alluded to it. SOC codes are kind of lagging and not always current and up to date. And so we have a lot of job titles in this sector, like after school worker, for example.
Right.
I don't have a code, it's called an SOC code for that job title because the Labor Department, Employment Development Department doesn't provide it. So the best way I could get to an answer of like, well, how many after school workers are there in the Bay region would be to get job titles from Kathleen and some keywords that would help me search an employer database called Burning Glass of all the job postings from employers and search that using those kind of key job titles to get a count essentially of over the last year, how many employers in the Bay region have posted jobs for after school worker. Those are, we're calling kind of the missing jobs that you can't find in the data tools that I just showed you. So that's a kind of a constant challenge, is to really get a good count of the number of workers in this sector.
Right, and it's not just our sector. I mean, I'm sure that there are other emerging sectors that have brand new job titles, like I'm blanking on what they're called. You know, they they hover around and take pictures of things.
Drones or artificial intelligence.
Drones. There's probably no SOC code right now for drone operator.
There isn't.
It's a new field, but ours is not new. And the SOC codes are only updated, I understand, every decade. So we're a few years away from an update, and we need all of you, everybody, to give input around not only what new SOC codes exist in our sector, but how to consolidate some of these. If we could just search more easily, we would see the numbers more easily. And there's really no reason to call some of these jobs so many different things when they're all working with children or youth in a variety of, settings. There aren't that many settings. So I think we're 6 years away from the total update for SOC codes, but
it takes them a long time to update an SOC code and make it more relevant and current to what's really happening on the ground with what employers call it. It's just a slow process. It's a big bureaucracy, and it's the Labor Department that does that.
Yeah, thank you.
So we went through this.
That's
what Chris showed us. We just did
went through that. All right. And then what will you do with the data? So John, thank you for showing us how to access the data. You're painting a picture basically, and we want your picture to be rich and thoughtful and accurate and complete. And so we're trying to paint the picture with the numbers of this sector based on students, on definitions of workforce, on enrollments, on available jobs, and why. We need to leverage our numbers and leverage our workforce. We need to affect change, describe the strengths and unique qualities of our sector, what we bring to the table. Again, heavily female sector, disproportionately impacted students, English language learners, a workforce that matches the students in California more closely than many sectors. So we have to talk about our strengths. We also needed to justify course and program expansions and offerings at your colleges and in your systems. Sometimes courses get cut, and there isn't an awareness of the number of jobs that are out there that are needed for people to go through the pipeline. And so you can't just cut the course if we have these critical needs being served. And let's say there's 35 students in your class and 50 in the Algebra 1 class, and a college has to make a decision and they decide to cut your class. You may be cutting 35 teachers in your community who will in turn come back and teach those algebra students in their new sectors as they become, they engage in job training. It's a circle, and we have to really elevate our field to show that all sectors need teachers and we should be prioritized. And families need childcare. We should be prioritized. Where do you take this data? You take it to the state chancellor's office, to your K-12 districts, to the CSUs and the UCs, the private colleges, your partner agencies, to workforce development boards who make decisions based on what they believe is an hourly wage, and you tell the complete story. You take it to your local governments and your elected officials. And what do you do with this data that will lead to elevating our sector? You apply for funding, current and anticipated funds. All funding applications need data. You create apprenticeships and workforce pipelines. You advocate for funding. And when you advocate, don't just advocate for services. We tend to get money for children and youth. They're very fundable. We never get money for the workforce. Advocate for funding for the workforce. If we do not have a workforce, children are not served. And then you compare jobs data with workforce pipelines. You highlight the needs and benefits of ECE and EDU to the success of all sectors. Do we have enough people to fill these jobs? As John mentioned with the Burning Glass data, when he did a deep dive into Burning Glass, he was able to see that some of these job postings were out, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They get reposted. That's a problem. We cannot fill the jobs in our sector and they're getting reposted. So that's a story to tell, and it's very compelling. So this is kind of the what and why. And I do want to mention this when you get the slide, take a look at it. It's family data. I'm not going to deep dive into it, but the United Way of California and the Bay Area just released a report on struggling to move up, the real cost measure in California in 2021, and the real cost to live in the Bay Area real cost measure report. So those are two reports talking about what the real costs are in our state and our region. But they divide the state separately. The real cost for families and the cost data that we've been looking at is not accurate. The costs are much higher when you factor in some of the elements that they looked at. So take a look. It's a very interesting, a very sad report for me. It was just, as I said, released in July. So striking. Here's our information, and feel free to contact us. We probably have a few minutes for questions if you have any. And again, I'll be happy to share the PowerPoint with the live links with you. And many of you have put your information in the chat. So if you want to just come off mute, if you have any quick questions, again, we have a few more minutes. Thank you. Nope. We overwhelmed you with data? Okay, last call. All right, thank you all for being with us, and we will see you. We enjoyed spending our afternoon with you. Thank you so much, and we will share the PowerPoint with those that put your information in the chat.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Kathleen. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.